ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्वजम्। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणम्। नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। श्रीभट्टपादं अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने. കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പീരേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining despite all your busy schedules for Navratri. So we'll quickly, we'll finish 61 and then do 62 today, but a quick review of 60. Maitri Garu, can you do Dasakam 60 today?
Okay.
Okay.
गोपी वस्त्रापहरण वर्णनम्। मदनातुरचेतसोऽन्यव Sonvaham. Oh, is that the tune?
Yeah, Madana Turacheta Sonvaham.
मदनातुरचेतसोन्वहं भवदाङ्घ्रिर्यद यथास्य काम्यः यया यमुनातटसीं सैकतीं करलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन्
That first line, Bhavadangri Dvaya.
भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयदास्य काम्यया तव नाम कथारता समं सुहृदः प्रातरुपागता नदीम् उपहारशतैरपूजयन् दियतो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति.
Dayito. That's the second line after the comma. Dayito Nandasu.
Second line.
Comma after.
दयितो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति इति मासमुपाहितव्रताः तरलाक्षीरभिवीक्ष्यता भवान् करुणामृदुलो दीप्तटं समयासीत्तदनुग्रहेच्छया नियमाविसितौ निजाम्बरं तटसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तथा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वामवलोक्य लज्जिताः कृपया निमताननास्वथो वनिता स्ववंबरजालमन्तिरे निहितं परिगृह्य भूरुहो विटपं त्वं तरसाधिरूढवान्.
And the first line, second word, Namithana Naswatho.
त्रपया नमिताननास्वथो. Okay. इह तावदुपेत्य नीयतां वसनं वसुदृशो यथा यथम् इति नर्ममृदुस्मिते त्वयि ब्रुवति व्यामुमुखे वधूजनैः अयि जीवचिरं किशोरनस्तव दासीरवशीकरो शिखम् प्रदिशाम्बरमम्बुजे क्षणेत् युदितस्त्वं स्मितमेव दत्तवान्.
And that first line, last word, or depending on first line or second line, depending on how you have it, is Karoshi Kim. Kim. I think you said Kam. It's Kim.
Sorry.
Yeah.
दासीर वशीकरोषि किम्. Okay. अधिरुह्य तटं कृताञ्जलिः परिशुद्धा स्वगतिर्निरीक्ष्यताः वसनान्यखिलान्यनुग्रहं पुनरेवं गिरमप्यदा मुदा विदितं ननु वो मनीषितं वदितारस्त्विह योग्यमुत्तरम् यमुना पुलिने सचन्द्रिकाः क्षणधा इत्यबलास्त्वबूचिवान् उपकर्ण्य मुखच्युतं मधुनिष्यन्धि वचो मृगीदृशः प्रणयादयि वीक्ष्यते वदनाब्जं शनकैर्गृहं गताः इति नन्वनुगृह्य वल्लविर्विपिनान्तेषु पुरेव सञ्चरन् करुणाशिशिरो हरे हरत् वरया मे सकलामयावलिन्. Om Sri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha.
That first line, that Vallavihi, we put a visarga instead of the ir sound there. So Vallavihi, visarga and comma, and then the ir on top of Vipinanteshu will go away, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I put a plus there. So I was wondering if I should stop there or go
Yeah,
off.
yeah. There's no plus there. It's Vallavi there.
Oh, it's just a.
Alright. Okay, so we'll continue with 61 from, since we have only about like 40 minutes left, we just have with two students today, right, instead of four. So I think Sashireka, you can be a student, and Gayatri, you can be a student. So I think we did up to seventh stanza in 61. So we'll start with stanza 8.
Rajeshji, I'll be there only for 20 minutes, but I would love to
Oh,
be a
right.
student. So I'll be a student for 20
Okay,
minutes and
sure,
then.
sure, no worries. Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Yeah, I know you had messaged, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with stanza 8. तथा च काचित्त्वदुपागमोऽध्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ. Just a recap, right? So we saw last time how in Krishna and Balarama they had gone to different side of the forest because Krishna wanted to give the opportunity for the wives of the Brahmins to bless the wives of the Brahmins. And so first when they went, the Brahmins said no, and then they went through the back door, and then the women immediately decided if Krishna and Balarama are there, we'll immediately come to see them. And then they got all kinds of food items with them to go see Krishna and Balarama. And we saw how in the last stanza when they went in, they saw the complexion of Krishna. They heard Krishna so many times, but they finally got a chance to see Krishna, how he was standing under the tree with a hand on his friend's shoulder, and then how he was dressed in, Pitambaram, and he was dark blue in complexion, had a peacock feather on his head. They kind of saw all of that. That's kind of where we ended stanza 7. Now, like we discussed last time also, is for the women, they were always thinking about Krishna because it's like the neighboring Vrindavan, they always used to say all the leelas of Krishna. And before Vrindavan, the Gokulam people used to always talk about the leelas of Krishna. So all of these women and the people there had for the last 7, 8 years heard about Krishna so many times, but they've never had a chance or fortune to see them. So now, when they were finally about to leave their houses to go see them, just kind of rewind a little bit. So at that time, of course, the rituals are going on. The homam is happening. So the priests did not want the Brahmins did not want the wives to leave because there's the homam going on. But despite the protest of the Brahmins, these wives said it's more important that we get a darshan of Krishna rather than come and stay at home. So they all ended up leaving their house to come and see Krishna and Balarama. And then Bhattacharya talks about one lady here. He doesn't give the name. And in one of my class, somebody said the name of that lady because it comes in a different text also about how she could not leave because her husband would not let her leave, and so she actually ended up giving her life. And when she gave her life, she was thinking about how she could not get the opportunity to see Krishna. So one of the things which will eventually, when you get to Bhagavatam and few other things, you'll always see that what you think at the time of your death is extremely important. And no matter how much you practice, you will not get that thought because there are so many thoughts that occupy your mind, right? Now, Bhattacharya says this lady is so fortunate because at the time of giving up her life, she was wishing she was with Krishna, right? So naturally, if you die thinking that you wished you were with Krishna, you'll automatically be with Krishna next, right? So he says this lady is so lucky, is more lucky than the women who went and met Krishna there because she was already always thinking about Krishna even at the last moment of her life. Anyway, so all these women end up going there against the wishes of their husband and wishes of their family. So tadacha kachit tvadupagamodhyata, comma, grihita hasta daitena yajvana. So even though their husbands forced them by not going, by trying to hold their hand, a lot of these women said, no, we are going to go. And they left them and went. Tadaiva sanchintya bhavantam anjasa, comma, vivesha kaivalyamaho kritinyasau. तदा चकाचे त्वदुपागमोऽध्यथा गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ.
तथा च काचित् काचित्वदुपागमोद्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहोकृतिन्यसौ तथा च काचित्वदुपागमोद्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहोकृतिन्यसौ
तथा च काचित्वदुपागमोद्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वनां तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहोकृतिन्यसौ तदा काचित्वदुपागमोद्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहोकृतिन्यसौ.
That's right. आधाय भोज्यान्यनुगृह्यताः पुनः त्वदङ्गसङ्गस्पृहयोज्झतीर्गृहम् विलोक्य यज्ञाय विसर्जयन्निमाः चकर्त भर्तॄन् पिता स्वगर्हणान्. So Krishna, Balarama, and all the friends then have the food that all the ladies had got, and then Krishna, of course, knew in the heart of the ladies what they had to go through, what they had in their mind, and what they went through to finally come here. So then Krishna then tells the ladies, saying that you have come to see me here, which is very appropriate. However, he says you should go back to where the yajna is happening, because your husbands were very learned brahmanas. They are still householders, they're still grihasthas, right? And they are actually doing the necessary sacrifices. So you all have to be there to, help them out and do that. You can't just come, you can't just abandon your duties and come. So here when the ladies say, it says Krishna, first of all, they left everything just to come and see Krishna. But the moment you see Krishna in person, there's no going back, right? Because the supreme bliss incarnate, so you won't, once you see Krishna, you're like, why do I need other things? So these ladies are saying, Krishna, we abandoned everything to come to see you. The moment we saw you, there is absolutely nothing else that we want in this world than be with you. We just want to be around you. He says, we've already left our houses. Our husbands are not going to take us back. Plus, we also don't want to go back because we just want to be completely serving you and we want to be around you and want to be thinking about you all the time. So at that time, Krishna gives a very important message, which he's going to give to the Gopikas later, much later. But he says, that first of all, the duty you are supposed to do is very important. You cannot abandon your karma and just leave everything and go. Okay, number one. It's okay to renounce your house at some point and then go to, surrender everything and go. But it has to be done in a proper way. Whatever your duties are there, you still have to complete those duties before you do that. He says you have not completed your duties. You just literally left your house and come. So he says that is not appropriate, number one. And number two, he says proximity to me, to the Supreme Lord, doesn't have to come by being next to me physically in person. He says you can just think of it in your mind. As long as you're thinking about me all the time, I'm going to be with you. Physical proximity is not important and not required in this case. So that is the message, the gist of the message that Krishna gives the Yajva-patnis. And with that, he says, don't worry, I personally will come and then we will make sure that your husbands take you all back, right? So with that, they all go back there. So adhaya bhojyani anugrihya. So it's bhojyani anugrihya are the two words there, but it will get merged. So bhojyani anugrihya taha, put a F to join, taf, punaha, put a visarga and comma. Next line, that is goes away. Twadanga sanga sprihayojhatir griham vilokya yajnaya visarjayannimaha, put a visarga and comma there. Next line, the ish goes away. Chakarta bhartrunapi tasva garhanan adhaya bhojyani anugrhyatah punaha twadanga sanga sprihayojhatir griham vilokya yajnaya visarjayannimaha चकर्त भर्तॄन् पिता स्वगर्हणान्
आदाय पूज्यानुगृह्यताः पुनः त्वदङ्गसङ्गस्पृहयोज्झति गृहं विलोक्य यज्ञाय विसर्जयन्निमाः चकर्थ भर्तॄनपि ता स्वगर्हणान्
Chirika, the first line, Bhojyan Yanugrihy.
भोज्यान्यनुगृह्य ओके आदाय भोज्यान्यनुगृह्यताः पुनः त्वदङ्गसङ्गस्पृहयोज्यते गृहं विलोक्य यज्ञाय विसर्जयन्निमाः चकर्थ भर्तॄनपि ता स्वगर्हणान्
आदाय भोज्या अनुगृह्य ता पुनः त्वदङ्गसङ्गस्पृह योज्य दीर्घगृहम् அது கொஞ்சம் சொல்லுங்களேன் அது
And
கொஞ்சம்
Twadanga
त्वदङ्ग
Sanga
சங்க
Prihayoj, ij sound, Prihayoj Jatir Griham.
जदीर्घ ओके ओके पुनः त्वदङ्ग सङ्ग स्पृगयोज्य दीर्घगृहं विलोक्य यज्ञाय विसर्जयन्निमाः चकर्तपदृन्नपि गर्हणान्
In Gayatri, in the first line, Bhojyan Yanu, Anugrihya, like I said, the Anugrihya is a word, but the
Okay.
Ni and A becomes Nya, right? So
Okay.
Bhojyan Yanugrihya it will become.
ओके भोज्यान्यनुगृह्य ओके आदाय भोज्यान्यनुगृह्यदा पुनः त्वदङ्गसङ्गस्पृहयोज्य जदीर्गृहं विलोक्य यज्ञाय विसर्जयन्निमाः चकर्दभद्रुन्नपि तास्पगर्घणान्
That's it. Nirupya dosham nijamangana jane bilokya bhaktim cha punarvicharibihi prabhuddha tattvaistomabhishtuto dvijaihi marutpuradhisha nirundhi megadhan. So then they all come back to that place, then, at the time the Brahmins, they realize the mistake that they made, they're saying, like I said, the Mimamsas who believe in performing rituals, who performing in doing actions, and then saying that the actions will have some result or that's how they get the benefit. And they were the Purva Mimamsas who only believed in doing the Vedas and the rituals and not believing that there is a God who is going to help. They believe that doing this, the respective demigods are supposed to help. That is their responsibility. That's how they believed in. And then, like I said, the Uttara Mimamsas who came later had a little more belief that you do this homam and everything, but all of this goes to the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord will bless. That's a slight subtle difference. So here, these Purva Mimamsas also come to the realization, and then they say that what a blunder it was. They say we are doing all these rituals, right, which eventually you're putting into the fire, which goes to the gods. The gods themselves came in person, or the gods themselves were there, coming and asking for food, and we missed it. Right? He says we had such a myopic view of things that we actually missed the bigger picture of the Bhagavan himself coming and asking for food, and we could not give. He says it's such a embarrassment and it's a bad thing on our front that we missed. So he says, what is the purpose of all of this knowledge? What is the purpose of all these austerities? And what is the purpose of all these prayers if you do not have true devotion? Right? And that devotion was missing, right, with them. And that's what their wives taught them that lesson. So they said, our wives today taught us a lesson that devotion at the end of the day, without devotion, anything you do is not going to be worth it. It's not going to be relevant. And that's what Krishna also gave advice to the wives to say, do not abandon your karmas because you want to be next to me. Continue to do whatever karmas you're doing. Continue to do whatever duties you are doing, thinking about me. Right? So that way you will still think about me. You will not abandon your duties, because if you abandon your duties, they're all eventually going to come back to you again, either in this birth or the next birth. Right? So he says, so don't abandon it, but continue to think about me. Anyway, so with this Dasakam comes to an end, about how both the Yajva Patnis and the priests, the Brahmins actually got knowledge about Krishna. So Nirupya Dosham Nijam Anganajane, bilokya bhaktim cha punar vicharibihi prabuddha tattvais tvam abhishtuto dvijaihi. You can put a visarga at the end of that line.
Tvamabhishtuto dvijaihi.
You're not unmute. Tvamabhishtuto dvijaihi, comma, marutpuradhisha nirundhi megada. निरूप्य दोषं निजमङ्गनाजने विलोक्य भक्तिं च पुनर्विचारिभिः प्रबुद्धतत्त्वैस्त्वमभिष्टुतो द्विजैः मरुत्पुराधीश निरुन्धि मे गधान्.
निरूप्य दोषं निजमङ्गनाजने विलोक्य भक्तिं च पुनर्विचारिभिः प्रबुद्धतत्त्वैस्त्वम् अभिष्टुतो द्विजैः मरुत्पुराधीशनिरुन्धि मे गदान्. निरूप्य दोषं निजमङ्गनाजने विलोक्य भक्तिं च पुनर्विचारिभिः प्रबुद्धतत्त्वैस्त्वम् अभिष्टुतो द्विजैः मरुत्पुराधीशनिरुन्धि मे गदान्.
निरुभ्य दोषं निजमङ्गनाजने विलोक्य भक्तिं च पुनर्विचारिभिः प्रबुद्ध तद्वैस्त्वमभिष्टुतो द्विजैः मरुत्पुराधीश निरुन्धि मे गदान्. निरूप्य दोषं निजमङ्गनाजने विलोक्य भक्तिं च पुनर्विचारिभिः प्रबुद्ध तद्वैस्त्वमभिष्टुतो द्विजैः मरुत्पुराधीश निरुन्धि मे गतान्.
Gayatri, in the first line, first word, nirupya, long u there, okay?
Okay, nirubhya. Inga vandu, okay, nirubhya, okay, nirupya. Okay.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, I know Sashireka, you have to leave now at 8 o'clock, right? So, Malini, can you be a student?
Thank you so
Next
much.
30 minutes, yeah. Okay, so Dasakam 62. Yeah. So 62 and 63 are connected. It flows together. So 62 is Indra Yaga Vighata Varnanam. So blocking the sacrifice that was actually happening to Indra. That's 62. So stanza 1. So this is like a 4-liner tune, but lines are not big enough, right? That like we saw in a few Dashakams, it's that kind of a tune here. कदाचित् गोपालान् विहितमकसंभार विभवान् निरीक्ष्य त्वं शौरे मघवमदमुध्वंसितुमनाः विजानन्नप्येतान् विनयमृदुनन्दादिपशुपान् अपृच्छः को वायं जनक भवतामुद्यम इति. So one day, right? So all the Nanda Gopa and all the cowherds, they were actually creating a lot of material. They were assembling something to perform a big yajna. And the yajna was to go and please Lord Indra. And Krishna, as part of Krishna Avataram, he kind of sets the stage. We saw the thing that he did with Brahma, where Brahma tried to show his superpowers. And Krishna then, made Brahma himself wonder what was happening. He had no idea what was going on. That was what happened with Brahma. Same thing will happen with lot of other demigods also. So Krishna wanted to, the time had come to teach Indra some lessons. So Krishna then, in spite of knowing what the preparations were going for, Krishna very humbly went and asked his father, I see you are doing all of these things. What is the purpose of these things? Right? See, it's one thing, anybody can ask questions. Sanatana Dharma doesn't stop anybody from asking questions on anything. You should absolutely ask questions. But you can't go and the intention of asking question has to be right. So Krishna was doing it in a very proper manner. He says, what are we doing? What is the purpose of this? How do you do this? Right? And then he says, if it is like a ritualistic sacrifice, then what is the outcome of it? Right? He says, I want to know what is actually happening. And he says, like, the right thing is, anytime you do something, if you know what the purpose of doing something is, then you'll be much more attentive to it, you'll be much more closer to it, and the benefits of it are much more higher. So he kind of asks in a very nice way to Nandagopa that, please tell me, what is it we are doing and why are we actually doing this? And Nandagopa, of course, like he thought, he doesn't know Krishna's greatness. He says, what, his son is genuinely asking the questions. So at least the question looked very genuine to Nandagopa as to why we are doing all of this. So, kadachit gopalan, comma, vihita makha sambhara vibhavan, comma, nirikshya tvam shaure, comma, magava madam udvamsitu manaha. You can break at that ma if you want. Madam udvamsitu manaha. Bijanan napyethan, comma, binaya mridu nandadi pashupan. Put a in at the end of that line. Next line, the na goes away, it becomes a. Aprichaha. Put a ich sound. Aprichah kovayam, comma, janaka bhavatam udyama iti. Kadachit gopalan vihitamaka sambhara vibhavan nirikshya tvam shaure magava madamudvamsitu manaha bijanannapyetan vinayamrudu nandadi pashupan apritchah ko vayam janaka bhavatam udhyama iti. Gayatri, go ahead, yeah.
Gadachit gopalan vikitamaga sambhara vibhavan nirikshyattvam saure magava madamuni vamsitubmanaha vijananya yetan vinayamrudu nandadi pashupan aprucha govayam janaka bhavata mudyama iti. Gadachit gopalan vihitamaga sambhara vibhavan nirikshyatvam saure maghava madam mudvamsitu manaham vijananya yetan vinaya mridu nandadi pashupan apruchakko vayam janaka bhavata mudyama iti.
Kadachit gopalan vigitamaga sambhara vibhavan nirikshyatvam shaure magava madam udvamsitu manaha vinanabhyetan vinayamrudu nandadi pashupan abruchah kovayam janaga bhavatamudyama iti. Kadachit gopalan vihitamaga sambhara vibhavan nirikshyatvam shaure magavamadam mudvamsitu manaha vijanannabhyetan vinayamrutu nandadi pashupan abhrushya hovayam janaga bhavatamudyama iti.
Fourth line, first word, aprichah kovayam.
Abhrichya hovayam janaka bhavata mudhyama iti.
Answer 2. Bhabhashe nandastvam sutananu vidheyo magavato makho varshe varshe sukayati sa varshena prithivim nridham varshayattam nikilam upajivyam mahitale visheshadasmakam trinasalila jivyahi pashavah. So Nanda, realizes it's a very valid question that his son is asking. So he explains it very nicely. He says, look, Krishna, the great Lord Indra is a controller of the rain. So all the rain we get is actually controlled by Indra. And the rain, which gives rainwater, the rainwater which comes from that, is absolutely essential for the sustenance of all of the creatures on the earth. Because he says, without the clean rainwater, the earth possibly cannot provide food or drink for a lot of people. And plus, it also cleans a lot of things, right? So it is extremely important, and it's difficult to overestimate the value of rain. It is that important, right? Rain is absolutely essential. Now, not only for others, but if you think of us, because we are cowherds. So what do the cowherds do? The cows have to graze. For the cows to graze, it needs luster, it needs grass. And the grass and trees all comes because rainwater comes, right? So that's rain is extremely important, and that rain is given by Indra, or Indra controls it. So we have to then offer something in return. It's like a Thanksgiving, right? So he says we offer him all this yajna, we offer him all this grain and everything, so that we are not, that Indra is happy with us, and then he will, of course, give us more rain. And this is extremely important for us as cowherds to worship Lord Indra. That's the explanation that Nandagopa says. Bhabashe Nandastwam, comma, Suta Nanu Videyo Magavato, comma, Makho Varshe Varshe. So every year, so he says every year, Varshe Varshe, every year, it's been our culture, it's been our tradition that we do this to Indra. Varshe Varshe, comma, Sukhayati sa Varshena Prithivim, Nrinam Varshayattam, comma, Nikhilam Upajivyam Mahitale, comma, Visheshadasmakam, comma, Trina Salila. Some books have Jiva, some books have Jivya. So you change it to Jivya. In case you have Jiva, change it to Jivya. Hi Pashavaha. Bhabashe Nandastwam Sutananu Vidheyo Maghavato Makho Varshe Varshe Sukayati Sa Varshe Na Prativim Nridam Varshayattam Nikhilamupajivyam Mahitale Visheshadasmakam Rinasalila Jivya Hi Pashavaha.
Rajesh, one question.
Yeah.
Is it Magavata or Magavato? The first line, second line, rather.
Magavataha, sometimes it becomes a to, and the essence and the visarga, depending on what comes later, it sometimes remains a visarga or becomes a to. So you change it to Magavato.
Magavato. Okay, and in the Tahan potrukar.
Yeah. No,
Abhashe Nandastwam Sutananu Vidayo Magavato Maho Varshe Varshe Sukayati Sa Varshena Prithivim Nrinam Varshayattam Nikhilamupajivyan Mahitale Visheshadasmakam Dranasalila Jivya Hi Pasavaham Pabashe Nantaswam Sutat Nanu Vidhayo Magavato
Vidheyo, and the word Vidheyo.
Videyo Mahavato Mako Varshe Varshe Sukayati Sa Varshena Prithivim Nrinam Varshayattam Nikhilamupajivyam Mahitale Visheshatasmakam Trinasalila Jivya Hi Pasavaha.
Babashe Nandastwam Sudananu Videyo Magavato Mago Varshe Varshe Sugayati Sa Varshena Prithivim Nrinam Varshayattam Nikhilamupajivyam Mahitale Visheshadasmakam Trinasalila Jivya Hi Pasavaha.
Again, in the first line, and the word Vidheyo.
Videyo, okay. Babashe Nandastwam Sudananu Videyo Magavato Mago Varshe Varshe Sugayati Sa Varshena Prithivim Nrinam Varshayattam Nikhilamupajivyam Mahitale Visheshadasmakam Trinasalila Jivya Hi Pasavaha.
That's the thing. Ite Shrutva Vacham Piturayi Bhavanaha Sarasam Dhige Tanno Satyam Magavajanita Vrishtiriti Yate Adrishtam Jivanam Srijati Khalu Vrishtim Samuchitam Maharanye Vrikshaha Kimiva Balimindraya Dadate. So the one main thing in Krishna Avataram is Krishna gives a lot of information, right? Like he gave in the last Dasakam also. And of course, Bhagavad Gita, he gave 700 stanzas. But he gives a lot of very valid feedback and knowledge for everybody. So Krishna says here, he says, look, a being is born into this world because of a karma that they have pending, right? And it is by their karma alone that the being's life comes to an end, right? And the happiness they go through, the sorrow they go through, the fear, the security, everything they go through is the effects of the karma, okay? And this, he says, like it's much more complex. He says there's an individual karma, then there is a collective karma of the people who live in a particular region. And Krishna says the effects, the natural effects which affect the region, he says, is because of the collective karmas of people who live in that region. Because he says nothing happens to you if it is not supposed to happen. So he says that's the rule. He says if something is not supposed to happen to you, it will not happen to you. If it has happened to you, that means it is destined to happen to you because of your karma. You cannot change that, right? So he says all of this happens for a reason. So he says, so he says, can Indra change your karma? He says Indra cannot change your karma, right? So why are you going and worshipping Indra? He says it's Indra's duty to actually do certain things, right? And it is his duty. You don't have to go worship Indra for him to do his duty. So one simple example, and somebody said this in an upanyasam. They said that in India, when you go to some place to get a certificate, marriage certificate or something, so somebody said that, oh, you know what, you go and bribe this person, because this person, I'll say it in Tamil, கொடுத்த பைசாக்கு ஒழுங்கா வேலை பண்ணுவார். That is, he will do his job for the money you give him. He'll do his right job. So he doesn't do his job for the pay, is a salary. He does his job properly for the amount of bribe you give him, right? So that's what Krishna is saying. By doing this to Indra, you're bribing Indra. You are not supposed to bribe Indra. You are supposed to do your duty. It is Indra's duty to do his duty, right? So you don't have to convince Indra. You don't have to pay him money. You don't have to do this homam to Indra. He says you don't have to do any of these things for Indra to do his duty. And Krishna says, look at, Maharanye Vrikshaha. He says, look at all the trees which grow in this forest. They all require water, right? They all require water to sustain. He says, Kimiva Balim Indraya Dadate. What Bali are they giving to Indra? What sacrifices are they giving to Indra? They don't give anything to Indra, but it rains for the trees to grow. So he says nothing of this is important, right? He says you do not have to, worship Indra here, because it is his responsibility. Whatever happens because of your karma and everything. So you don't have to go worship Indra. And next stanza, Krishna will say who to worship, right? So he says here, do not worship Indra here. Iti shrutva vacham piturai, bhavanaha sarasam, dhige tanno satyam, maghava janita vrishtiriti yat adrishtam jivanam, srijati khalu vrishtim samuchitam, maharanye vrikshaha, kimiva balim indraya dhadate. Iti shrutva vacham pituraihi bhavanaha sarasam dhige tanno satyam maghava janita vrishtiriti yat adrishtam jivanam srijati khalu vrishtim samuchitam maharanye vrikshaha kimiva balimindraya dadate.
Idi shrutva vacham pituraihi bhavanaha sarasam dige tanno satyam maghava janita vrishtiriti yat atrishtam jivanam shrujati kaluvristim samuchitam maharanye vrikshaha kimiva balimindraya tadate.
The third line, after jivanam, the comma is there, okay?
Okay. Adrishtam jivanam, right?
Yeah.
Idi shrutva vacham pidurai bhavanaha sarasam dige tanno satyam maghava janita vrishtiriti yat atrishtam jivanam srujati kalu vrishtim samuchitam maharanye vrikshaha kimiva balimindraya dadate.
Idi shrutva vacham pituraihi bhavanaka sarasam digedanno satyam maghavanidha vrishtiriti yat adrishtam jivanam srujati kalu vrishtim samuchitam maharanye vrikshaha kimiva balim indraya dadate. Idi shrutva vacham pituraihi bhavanaha sarasam digedanno satyam maghava janita vrishtiriti yat adrishtam jivanam srujati kalu vrishtim samuchitam maharanye vrikshaha किमिव बलिम् इन्द्राय ददते
and so forth. Idham tavat satyam yadiha pashavo nah kuladhanam tada jivyayasau bhalirachala bhartre samuchitah surebhyopyutkrishtah nanu dharani devaha kshititale tataste pyaraadhyah iti jagadidatvam nijajanan. So Krishna then continues. He says, it is what you said is true. Cows are our kula dhanam. That is the wealth of us because we are cowherds, right? So cow is our wealth. And where do we go? We always go to the forest. We always go live in areas which are lush green, right? I says now when we are in Vrindavan, what is helping our cows? He says the Govardhana mountain helps the cows. The Govardhana mountain is what gives the cows grass. The Govardhana mountain has springs which come, which is giving the cows water, right? So the cows for us, which is our wealth, they solely survive on the Govardhana mountain and the Vrindavan forest. So that is extreme. Directly they're helping us. And do they ask for anything in return? Does Govardhana say you have to give me something? No. He says you should go worship Govardhana mountain because they are giving you things without asking for anything in return. Right? That is the right dharma. So that is number one. The second he says is the holy men who are the people who are truly holy, because whose whole purpose is to do things to benefit everybody else. You should go worship them. He says because they also do all these things for the benefit of everybody else. So he says whatever food you are cooking, whatever things you are preparing for the homam, he says first, he says you go call all these Brahmins, let them do the necessary puja and everything, the havans that they have to do. Then he says you first feed all the Brahmins, then you go give all of this food to the Govardhana mountain, right? You offer it to the Govardhana mountains, then you give it to all the cows and everybody, he says, and he says you then give it to the dogs, then you give it to all the other people who are there who require food, and then you go consume your food. He says that is the sequence which Krishna says you have to do it, right? You first offer it to the Brahmins, then you offer to the Govardhana mountain, you then give it to the cows, you then give it to the dogs which don't have any food, and he says you even give it to the dog eaters who are there, right? And then once you fed all of them, then you go and consume this food, and then you go and circumambulate, go around the Govardhana mountain, do the Giribalam about it. He says that is sufficient. You don't have to go worship Indra or anybody else. And so Krishna tells them here. So idam thavat sat. That's why I was telling that Govardhana mountain is the symbol of Krishna himself. Like how we have Tiruvannamalai, where the Malai itself is Lord Shiva. Similarly, Govardhana mountain is Lord Krishna itself, and we'll see how. So idam thavat satyam, comma, yadiha pashavo naha, put a ich sound, pashavo nah kuladhanam, comma, tada jivya yasau bhalirachala bhartre samuchitaha. So second line, there is no comma there. Surebhyopyutkrishtaaha. So you cannot break that word. Surebhyopyutkrishtaaha. So you add a visarga because we're going to put a comma there. Krishtaha, comma. Nanu dharani devaha. So that visarga you have to say because ksha is coming later. So you cannot ignore it. So devaha kshititale, comma. Tatas tepyaradhyaha. Similar to the previous line, add a visarga there. Tatas tepyaradhyaha, comma. Iti jagadita tvam nijajanan. Idham tavat satyam yadiha pashavo nah kuladhanam tadha jivyayasau bhalirachala bhartre samuchitah surebhyopyutkrishtah nanu dharani devaha kshititale tataste pyaraadhyah iti jagadidatvam nijajanan.
idam tavat satyam yadiga bashavo nah kuladhanam tada jivyaya sau balirachala bhadre samuchitah surebhyo द्युत्कृष्टाः ननु धरणी देवाः क्षितितले ततस्तेभ्याव्राध्याः इति जगदितं त्वं निजजनान् इदं तावत् सत्यं यदिह भाषवो न कुलधनं तथा जीव्यायासौ बलिरचलभर्त्रे समुचितः सुरेभ्यो व्युत्कृष्टाः ननु धरणिदेवाः शिशितले ततस्देव्याराध्याः इति जगदिदत्वं निजजनान्
इदं तावत् सत्यं यदिह पशवो नः कुलधनं तदा जीव्यायासौ बलिरचलभर्त्रे च मुचितः सुरेभ्योऽभ्युत्कृष्टाः ननु धरणिदेवा क्षितितले ततस्तेभ्याराध्याः इति जगदि तत्त्वं निजजनान्.
Manali, in the third line, the Dharani Devaha, the Visarga you have to say. Okay.
Okay.
Dharani Devaha Kshititale.
धरणिदेवाः क्षितितले. इदं तावत् सत्यं यदिह पशवो नः कुलधनं तथा जीव्यायासौ बलिरचलभर्त्रे समुचितः सुरेभ्योऽभ्युत्कृष्टाः ननु धरणिदेवाः क्षितितले ततस्तेभ्याराध्याः इति जगदि तत्त्वं निजजनान्.
That's fine. Maybe we'll do one more and stop. Bhavat vacham shrutva bahumati-yutastepi pashupaha dvijendranarchanto bhalimadaduruchaihi kshitibrite vyaduh pradakshinyam subrishamanamannadharayutaha tvamhadashailatma balimakilamabhira purataha. So when everybody heard what Krishna said, they said, yeah, that makes sense, because logically it makes sense. It doesn't matter who is saying it, right? It logically makes sense what Krishna is saying. So they did exactly what Krishna suggested, which is, they invited all of the Brahmins. The Brahmins kind of recited all the Vedic mantras, everything that they had to do. And whatever they had actually prepared as an offering or a sacrifice to Indra, they first presented to the Brahmins and then to go to the Govardhana mountain and to the Brahmins, everybody. Then they made sure they fed the cows. And then they had this huge amount of food which they had actually kept for Govardhana. And they began the circumambulation process around Govardhana mountain. So at that time, again, these are all cowherds, right? So they don't know much. So for Krishna thought, when they are offering something to Agni in the sacrifice fire, the food gets consumed in the fire kind of consumes it. When you give it to the cows eat. When you give it to the Brahmins eat. If you give it to Govardhana mountain, how is the mountain going to eat it, right? So what if these people don't trust? So when they were circumambulating, without them knowing, because they don't know much, Krishna himself comes as Govardhana mountain and consumes that food. So this is what is called as Annakut. So if you hear this word, and for those of you who are in the northwest suburbs, Grace Lake, they do this Annakut every year. And I think it's going to happen sometime in the month of October. I don't know if they send the schedule, you can check. So you can come. What they do is they make huge amounts of food. And then they essentially offer it to Govardhana mountain. By offering it to Govardhana mountain, you're offering it to Krishna himself, right? And then Krishna, in this case, comes and consumes all the food so that the people think that the Govardhana mountain accepted their offerings. Otherwise, they will stop believing it, right? So he didn't want that to happen. So Bhavat Vacham Shrutva, Bahumati Yutastepi Pashupaha Dvijendran Archanto, Balim Ada Duruchaihi. Again, that Visarga you have to say. So Balim Ada Duruchaihi Kshitibrite Vyaduhu, put a F to join, Vyaduh Pradakshinyam, Subhrisham Anamannadhara. You cannot break too much there. So Subhrisham Anamannadhara Yutaha. Visarga at the end. Annadhara Yutaha. Next line, if you have is, that goes away. Tvamada Shailatma, Bhalim Akhilam Abhira Purataha, if you want to break it. Bhavat Vacham Shrutva Bahumati Yutastepi Pashupaha Dvijendranarchanto Bhalimadaduruchaihi Kshitibrite Vyaduh Pradakshinyam Subrishamanamannadharayutaha Tvamhadashailatma Bhalimakilamabhira Purataha.
Bhavat वाचं श्रुत्वा बहुमतियुतास्तेऽपि पशुपाः द्विजेन्द्रा नर्षन्तो बलिमद दुर्चैषितिभृते भृते यदुप्रदक्षिण्यं स्पृतुषमना
सुभृशम
ओके सुभृशमन्नाधरयुधाः त्वमादशैलात्मा बलिमखिलमाभिरपुरतः भवत्वाचं श्रुत्वा बहुमतियुतास्तेऽपि पशुपाः द्विजेन्द्रा नर्षन्तो बलिमददुरुच्चैषु श्रुतिभृते
दुरुच्चैहि அந்த விசர்கா दुरुच्चैहि क्षितिभृते
ऋतृजैगीर्षितिभृते यदुप्रदक्षिण्यं सुभृशमन्नादरयुधाः त्वमादशैलात्मा बलिमखिलमाभिरपुरतः
भवद्वासं श्रुत्वा बहुमतियुधास्तेऽपि पशुपाः द्विजेन्द्रानर्चन्दो बलिमदधुर्चैः क्षितिभृते व्यदुः प्रादक्षिण्यं सुभृशम् ಅದನ್ನ ಅಮನ್ನಾದವಾದ
ಅನಮನ್ನ ಸುಭೃಶಂ ಅನಮನ್ನ
सुभृशम् अनमन्नादरयुताः त्वमादशैलात्मा बलिमखिलमपि प्रपुरतः भवद्वासं श्रुत्वा बहुमतियुधास्तेऽपि पशुपाः द्विजेन्द्रानर्चन्दो बलिमदधुरुच्चैक्षितिभृते व्यदुः प्रादक्षिण्यं सुभृशम् अनमन्नादरयुताः त्वमादश्चैलात्मा बलिमखिलमापि அதுக்கு சரியா வரல
you were getting it balim akhilam abhira puratah
बलिम् अखिलम् आभिपुरतः आभीरपुरतः बलिम् अखिलमाभीरपुरतः.
Balim means sacrifice, whatever sacrificial offerings are there. Balim akhilam, every single thing, you finished it, right? That's what it is. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhatyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre पुनरुर्पुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everyone. See you next week.
Vijayadashmi namaskar.
Oh, thank you everyone.
Rajesh.
With all of you.
Thank you, sir.